a trade deficit gets large and it looks like you have no way out from it, that can be a real problem over time. I mean, you're shipping little pieces of paper to the rest of the world, and they're shipping you goods. I mean, people are working, making underwear or shoes someplace, and they get little pieces of paper from us. And it gets very tempting if you've done that enough to make sure that those little pieces of paper aren't worth very much over time when they want to cash them for something. So, and you don't want to have, we don't have any problem running trade deficits, but if we ran really large ones and we sort of worked ourselves into a box where we didn't really have a solution to get the numbers down, it could be a problem. And I wrote about it one time, but it's kind of a nice thing, actually. Just, I mean, wouldn't you like to have something where you just send out little pieces of paper and somebody keep supplying you with your food or your, whatever.
I'm living it.
You're right? Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, we call them credit cards in the United States.
Exactly.
The US is experiencing both trade and budget deficit and wants to solve this problem with extreme measures that are being taken right now. These measures is to cut government budgets in some areas, expenses, cut government expenses. And in trade area, we see they impose tariffs on certain goods coming out of different countries. And I'm gonna explain to you why these measures is not gonna solve the persistent deficit. First, we need to look at the history of trade and budget deficit, and it goes back almost 50 years ago. So the US is running trade and budget deficit consistently for almost 50 years. And in all these years, there was no structural change that could solve these deficits and uh, bring it to surplus. We are at the point that these debts that are accumulated throughout decades is unsustainable and needs extreme measure to take uh, control of this debt that doesn't get out of hand. That's why you see measures being taken like cutting government expenses and putting tariff on certain countries, the products that coming to the US from certain countries. These measures are aimed at to bring down the amount of deficit that US experiencing every year. But if you look at the structure and mechanic of economy, you're gonna see these measures is not gonna solve the overall problem. During the last 50 years, the US is being deindustrialized to a degree that is only around 15% of world manufacturing come out of US compared to 50% that in after World War II, 50% of products produced in the world coming from US and was the dominant manufacturing power in the world. But after 1980s and neoliberal policies that being taken by different administrations, we see that manufacturing is outsourced to other countries that could provide cheaper labor. Based on the economic system that is in place right now, the dollar still is very strong compared to the currency of other countries that could produce goods with lower prices and cheaper labor. So what happens is the manufacturing is not going to come back to the US, but the US could import goods and products from other countries. But putting tariffs on those products means higher cost for consumers in the US. When you put 25% tariffs on product coming out of Canada, it means that the producer of that product in Canada is not gonna pay of this 25%. Let's say a manufacturer wanna sell a product in Canada to the US with the price tag of $100. So the manufacturer in Canada sell this $100 goods to the US, and when enter to the US they put 25% tariff or tax on this $100. So the consumer in the US, American consumer, need to pay $125 for that product. That $25 goes to the government. So the consumer is going to pay more, not the Canadian or the Canadian producer and manufacturer. And if Canada put 25% tariff on American product that goes to Canada, again you have some manufacturer in the US that sell product to Canada. Then because of this more expensive transaction that happen and the consumer in Canada need to pay more, there's a chance that this product be purchased from other places like China, that it could be cheaper for Canadian. Again, the manufacturer, the producer inside US cannot sell enough of its product as before, and when cannot sell, cannot contribute as tax to the government to reduce the budget deficit that we are experiencing now. So as you can see, is not gonna work out the way that we've been told by mainstream media. The truth is, as long as the dollar is very strong compared to other currencies, the manufacturing in the US is not gonna grow and become strong like other countries. So the only industries and areas, sectors that stay strong and stable are mostly financial, and those areas that there is no competition, like commercial aircraft, that is, you have only European Union, they have Airbus, and US has Boeing. So those areas that there is not global competition yet, that China also is making certain commercial aircraft that could in few years is going to be a competition. But as a moment, those areas that are not competition, like commercial aircraft, and those areas that related to finance, that is not a real industry but is kind of attract and take in all the money that is abroad, the capital, to come to the US to invest in large multinational companies. So those sectors gonna boom, but the rest of manufacturing areas that is helpful to everyday working class people, those are gone and is not gonna come back in the US. So what we have is we have certain very profitable companies that need very high skill um, people that work for them, employees that work for them, and some of them also could come from other countries with H-1B visa to work here. So it's kind of the citizen gonna left with very few choices to work for, those companies that are very profitable, multinational, those companies that are in financial industry, or those companies that there is no competition. And those areas that there is no competition get smaller and smaller. I would like to hear your idea, and please share it in the comment section. Thank you. I'm gonna see you in the next video.